Welcome back. In the previous lecture, we have seen the definition and concept of root locus and its angle and magnitude condition. And also, we have seen that just by changing the value of k from 0 to infinity and finding out poles for every k and then joining them is a very tedious process. And hence, Evans developed a procedure to sketch the root locus. Though it is approximate, it gives all fruitful and required information. In this lecture, we are going to see the properties of the root locus proposed by Evans. Let us start with one by one, and after writing the property, I will elaborate it. So, the first property is root locus is symmetric about real axis. So, root locus is a locus of closed loop poles in the S plane, and the poles can be real or complex conjugate. Say initially the poles are real, or initial poles for k equal to 0, closed loop poles are real, and they start moving as the gain k changes from 0 onwards, and then they move in the imaginary plane. Now, when they move in the imaginary plane, the poles are always, which are complex in nature, they cannot be individual, they are always in a pair, pole pair, and that is why this root locus is always symmetric about the real axis. Let us consider the property number 2. Root locus starts with open loop poles at k equal to 0 and terminate either to open loop 0 or infinity at k equal to infinity. And what does this mean? Say, for example, if the root locus say starts with these 3 poles, so always number of branches of root locus equal to number of open loop poles. And one more important thing is that though root locus is a locus of closed loop poles, it uses open loop transfer function to sketch the locus of closed loop poles. So, as it starts from the open loop poles, so as gain k changes, all the 3 poles will start moving. Now, these 3 poles will move either to open loop 0 or to infinity when k becomes infinity. In this particular case, there is no open loop 0. The system has no open loop 0. And that means none of the pole can move to 0 and all the poles will move to infinity. So, in continuation to this property, what we can say that the number of branches terminating to infinity are p minus z, where p equal to number of open loop poles and z equal to number of open loop zeros. So, if you have p poles, out of p, z poles will move to z zeros, and then the remaining p minus z poles will move to infinity. So, moving to infinity, say if this is a circle having radius infinity, on that circle they will be placed at some point when k becomes infinity. but when they start, they are on the real axis. So let us see the third property. The root locus exists on real axis if number of open loop poles plus open loop zeros towards the right of that point is odd. What does it mean? That, say for example, here we have three different poles. Now you check, let us see that whether we are interested in whether the root locus exists here or not. So for that, for any point between these two poles, if you look towards right, the number of open loop poles plus number of open loop zeros is 1, that is odd, and hence the root locus exists in this region. In this region, root locus exists. It is there. Then if you look at this particular region between these two poles, the number of poles to our right are even, and here you don't have no root locus. So this region is of no root locus. And again you look at any point towards the left of this third pole, then the number of open loop poles plus zeros is equal to 3, that is odd. So here also the root locus exists. So this is how we can find out the existence of root locus on the real axis. Then the property number 4 is, so here we have said that the p minus z branches are approaching to infinity, and as I said, it is a circle of radius infinity, so on some point they will move, but where and how? So for that there is a guideline that the branches of root locus terminating to infinity travel along the asymptotes with angle. Their angle is given, that is theta is equal to 2n plus 1 into 180 degree divided by p minus z, with n equal to 0, 1, 2, so on up to p minus z minus 1. And what does it say? That, say for example, in this case, let us consider there are three poles. There are three poles, means 0, 1, 2. There will be three asymptotes, as all three poles are moving to infinity. And then angles can be obtained by putting n equal to 0, 1 and 2. So the asymptote angle will be here, when you put here equal to 0, this becomes 180 by 3, that is 60. Then next will be 180 and next will be 300. So that is the angle. So in the 60 degree direction one asymptote is moving, in 180 degree one is moving, and in the other is moving in 300. 300 means 180 plus 120, 300, like this. So it is moving like this, 300. So these are the angles. Now the next question comes that yes, they are the asymptotes, they are moving in the particular angles, but where they will originate, whether from this point they will move in 60 degree or from this point it will move in 60 degree. There is possibility of infinite such points from where they can move with this angle. And hence the next property is also important, which gives us the point of origination of asymptotes, that the asymptotes originate on real axis at a point called centroid. And that centroid is given by centroid, and it is denoted by sigma. Sigma is equal to summation real part of poles minus summation real part of zeros divided by p minus z. So if we have all these pole and zero locations, just putting it here, we will get the point of origination of asymptotes, that is sigma. So that is the point on which all asymptotes intersect the real axis, or also we can say that asymptote originate at that point. Okay, let us see that the asymptotes are drawn from a particular point, and now here initially the poles are here, and along with asymptotes they are going to move in that particular direction, and that means at some stage they will leave the real axis, they will depart from the real axis. And on the real axis, from where they will depart, so that point is called as breakaway point. So sixth property is the root locus departs, or even it may arrive on the root locus from the imaginary plane. Departs from or arrives on the root locus at a point called breakaway point, or it may be break-in point. So if it is departing, it is breakaway; if it is arriving, it is break-in point. So now the question is how to find the breakaway point. It is done like we have the characteristic equation. The closed loop characteristic equation is 1 plus GSHS is equal to 0. Now in this GSHS it involves a K. So from 1 plus GSHS equal to 0, obtain the expression for K. Then determine dk by ds and equate it to 0. So the solution of dk by ds equal to 0 are the breakaway points, breakaway or break in. Now all the solutions of these equations are not the breakaway or break-in point. For that we need to check the existence of root locus on the real axis. Say for example, if we get three different breakaway points, let us consider three different breakaway points, and one fall here and the other fall here and the third one here. That means the breakaway point falling here where the root locus does not exist is invalid, and the remaining are considered as breakaway point. Okay, now the next point. Now with the breakaway point they will depart, and now they will move along the asymptotes. Now if the asymptotes are cutting the imaginary axis, this root locus will also cut the imaginary axis, and that means there will be intersection of the root locus with imaginary axis, and where it intersects, that we have to find. So the next property is intersection with imaginary axis is obtained using Routh stability test. The root locus intersects imaginary axis at k equal to k marginal, and that point of intersection is nothing but the frequency of oscillations. So another case is there, and that will treat separately the eighth property, and that is called as angle of departure or angle of arrival. So that property says that the root locus departs from a complex plane or complex pole, or same way arrives at a complex zero with an angle theta d is equal to 180 minus phi, and this 180 minus phi means what is phi? So this phi is given by where phi is equal to summation of phi p minus summation of phi z. Where phi p and phi z are the angles made by remaining poles and zeros with pole or zero, or in this case it is pole because we are finding out angle of departure, pole under consideration. What does it mean? Let us see. There is a complex plane, and we have a pole here, then a pole here, and then pole here and pole here, and we want to find out that from which point, or even let us consider one zero here, at what angle the root locus will depart from this pole, that we have to find out. And how it is done? So for that purpose, this is the angle phi p1. Let this be the first pole. Let this be the second pole, and this is phi p2. Let this be phi p3, and again we have here this as phi z1. And then in this particular case, phi is equal to phi p1 plus phi p2 plus phi p3 minus phi z1, summation phi p minus summation phi z. And this phi is substituted here to find out phi d. At that angle it moves. Very clear cut. Similarly, angle of arrival phi a is given by 180 degree plus phi. Everything is in degrees, so here I will mark degree. and after obtaining phi a, the root locus will arrive at that point with angle phi a. So these are all 8 properties we have covered so far in this lecture. By using these 8 properties, we will form the procedure to sketch the root locus. By making use of these properties, the root locus can be sketched. That we will see in the next lecture. Thank you.